Facebook coming in YouTube. Hello, Johanna. Thanks for being here on YouTube here today. We're getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants, so get ready to go. Got a very interesting connection between a major company in America, a major food company in America, and the scientific research. Some pretty big news came out today that I wanted to share with you, plus some context about how this is not new. We've known this for a little while. It's just the next incarnation of the news. What's up, Norma? Thank you for being here today. Come on in, make yourselves at home, you guys, right here on Facebook, right here on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to start my show, Jimmy Rants, here in about just a little over a minute. We will get this show on the road, but hope you guys are having a good day. I got up super early today. I was trying to push my bedtime a little bit later last night. Hello, Shirley, over on YouTube. A little bit earlier last night, or later last night, I was trying to push my sleeping because I've been going to sleep somewhere between like 7 and 8, and then I would push it a little bit to 8 to 8:30. Last night, I ended up going all the way to 9:30 thinking, okay, if I go to sleep at 9:30, then that means I'll wake up at some semblance of a normal hour. Well, I was up at 3:30, so that didn't work. I guess I just need to be content with going to bed around 8 o'clock. And wake up when I wake up, because I tend to get better sleep data when I go to bed earlier than if I try to push it to go later. It just doesn't work. So still tinkering with that, but I hope you guys are doing okay. Yeah, it's a busy day for me. I have an interview right after Jimmy Rants here today. I've got an interview for the Live and La Vida Low Carb show coming up at 12:30, and then I've got another one with a doctor who's going to talk about some interesting things at 4 o'clock. All of these are coming up. I'm trying to get a bunch of interviews kind of in the can so that I don't have to work nearly as hard as I have been lately. I enjoy the craft, but it's exhausting if you kind of go, and I try to resist that urge to go all the time. Well, I'm not seeing anybody else besides Norma on here. If you're on here, Facebook, talk to me a little bit. And yeah, let's see if you're here, because normally by now I've had a bunch of people coming in and all I see is Norma. Anybody else watching? Same over here on YouTube. I'm thinking that social media, they've done some screwy things. For some reason, they're just not letting me see certain things, and vice versa, not letting you see certain things. We'll just deal with it at the end of the day. Like, I see Kira just gave me a thumbs up, but I don't see any comments from you, Kira. That's funny. And usually I see comments every single day. All right, well, I'll trust you're there. Just, I don't see you. Very, very, very interesting. All right, let's get this show on the road over here on Instagram. And here we go. There you are, Kira. I knew I'd see your comment eventually. Is Coca-Cola influencing nutritional health science? Find out here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so be there, be square. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here today. We also simulcast on my YouTube live stream, so thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV right here on Instagram. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. And then finally, pop on over to JimmyRants.com. You'll see all the past episodes there, and you can also support the work we're doing here. Click on the Patreon link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Today is Wednesday, so on Wednesdays I have a brand new Jimmy Rants bonus episode available on YouTube for you. So if you pop on over to youtube.com/livinglowcarbman, you'll get to go to my channel and you actually have not just one, but 2 bonus episodes that you can view. One is with Janae Siwis. She is a pregnant woman who is in very late term of her pregnancy, and she eats a low-carb, ketogenic, carnivore-style diet. A lot of people have questions about pregnancy and whether you can eat a ketogenic diet when you are pregnant. And so she is about to have her baby any day now. So find out what she eats and how it all works and how she's done. So that's up there right now. It's also going to air on the Live and La Vida Low Carb show today. And then we also have tomorrow's episode is already up as well on Real Talk. I've got a fascinating conversation with a longtime friend of mine, Sean Croxton. You might remember him from the Underground Wellness podcast. And so he and I had a great kind of thinking back and looking back down memory lane, how we all kind of started this health podcasting thing many moons ago, and now everybody and their mama has a podcast. So go listen, go watch them at YouTube. They're both Jimmy Rant's bonus episodes, or you can listen to Janae on the Live and La Vida Low Carb show today, and then tomorrow you'll have Sean Croxton on Real Talk, LLVLC.com are those websites, or is that website where you can listen to those episodes. Okay, you guys, so today I have a very interesting thing to talk about with you, because you've heard me talk about many times how industry ties to the research world are just, they're everywhere. And anybody that wants to pretend like pharmaceutical companies do not have a heavy hand in research, or food companies do not have a heavy hand in how studies come out and how they're framed and what actually gets published, if you don't believe that, then today's Jimmy Rants is going to convince you. Because this has been going on for a very, very long time. And of course, it's not new. We've known about this for years, but we just keep seeing it over and over and over again. And today we have yet another example that proves just how much industry influences nutritional health science. And this is where it gets tricky, because so many people say, well, this such and such study says, and it's something bad about keto, or it's not bad about sugar. And they're like, see, it's not about sugar, it's not about ketosis, it's this. And then you come to find out that that science was supported by some food company that stood to benefit from the findings of that study. And so what I'm going to talk to you about here today is Coca-Cola. Yes, the big wonder sugary drink king that's been out there, probably one of the most recognized brands in the world. They are driving nutritional health research. Did you know that? Did you know a lot of the research that's going on behind the scenes is being funded by Coke? And I've told you about this on previous Jimmy Rants. They have infiltrated not just the scientific research, but also the scientists themselves, creating an organization that the members that are in that organization are some of the top scientists in the world. And somehow, some way, they end up on the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. So not only is the Dietary Guidelines not based on the full science, as we talked about on previous Jimmy Rants, but they're also infiltrated by all these people who are pro-Coke, because they're getting funding for their research from Coca-Cola. Like, how do they allow this, ethically speaking? How do you allow the fox to rule the henhouse? Seriously, it's just amazing to me that this is allowed to go on, and yet it does. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you about here today, this is from Discover Magazine. Study uncovers how Coca-Cola influences scientific research. Coca-Cola funds health research at universities. A new study shows that this spending has a dark side. Coca-Cola has poured literally millions of dollars into scientific research at universities. Can I tell you why they do that? A lot of these scientists are begging for funding. When you are a scientist, that's literally your job. Besides doing the scientific research, your job is to fundraise. And if you don't have funding, you can't do research. And so literally these guys are like starving for anybody to fund their research. Now they have hypotheses and they have things they want to do, but those things cost money. And so generally the National Institutes of Health, NIH, funds a lot of studies, but they can't fund every study. So what do these universities do? They go to industry. They go to pharmaceutical companies. They go to food companies and say, hey, we want to test the veracity of X. And if it's interesting to that company, then they'll say, okay, we'll give you the money for it. Now, most of the time, the money comes with no strings attached. In other words, we want you to show what the data shows. So in a drugs case, they'll do a study of a drug, and they want to see the safety of the drug and all the ramifications, what actually happens in a study. They say, okay, here's the money for it, here's the supply of the drug, go study these people, and then they're hands off. And that's the way it's supposed to be in science. Unfortunately, what's happening is the money that is given, either from pharmaceutical companies or in this case, Coca-Cola, the money that is given to these universities comes with lots of strings, as you're about to find out. If the beverage giant Coca-Cola doesn't like what the scientists find, the company has the power to make sure that that research never sees the light of day. Can I tell you that is a disgusting cancer to all of science? Because if we're going to do studies looking at sugar, for example, and it comes out showing sugar is really, really bad, and Coca-Cola paid for that study to be done, does that help or hurt Coca-Cola? It hurts them bad. And so in their language of the contracts they do with these universities, okay, we'll give you the money to research it, but if you find a bad finding, we're gonna go ahead and just say, don't publish it. Now, an ethical researcher would publish it anyway, but these people are just desperate for that money. And see, here's the other thing. Having those strings attached makes the scientist even change the way they conduct their research. If they know that Coke is going to kill it if it makes them look bad and makes sugar look bad, maybe they don't get funding the next time. So what does the researcher do? The researcher might, not saying they do, just saying there would be motivation to do this, but the researcher might do the findings and have the results and the conclusions that Coca-Cola would want, so they can keep that gravy train coming. And what that does is it taints the entire research world. And we see this in nutritional health science to the hilt. It's why I tell people when you see a nutritional health study, you almost by default need to take it with a grain of salt, unless it's been done with good methodology and you see who's funding it and you see it replicable. This is the other thing. A lot of these studies come out and it's just like, this is what science says, and that's all you ever hear. You never hear anybody else replicate the same results. So that's a problem. If you're just joining us, yes, Coca-Cola driving nutritional health research. Does that even like sound surreal to anybody? That they could possibly have anything good to have to do with nutritional health science, because we know their bent is to sell you sugary swill. And so if that is their goal, is to sell you sugary swill, then why, pray tell, would they want to do any studies looking at how sugary swill leads to obesity, type 2 diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and all the like? They wouldn't. And what we're finding out here today is, yes, they're spending millions upon millions of dollars at these universities to get this kind of science done, but if they don't like the study results, they have the right to tell them not to publish it, and it never sees the light of day. This is all according to an analysis that was published this week in the Journal of Public Health Policy. It explains how Coca-Cola uses contract agreements to influence public health research that it financially supports. The paper explains that Coca-Cola uses carefully constructed contracts to ensure that the company gets early access to the research findings, as well as the ability to terminate a study for any reason. Any reason. Now, why do academic institutions allow that? That's what I want to know. Because if you're going to uphold the ethical standards of science, you can't have industry putting their fingers into said science. If you do, it's no longer science, it's propaganda at that point. How can any researcher worth their salt actually sign on to a contract that says this industry representative like Coke is going to give me money, but I have to bow down to every one of their dictates? If they don't like it, then we have to go back and do the study again. If they don't want it to be published, then we have to not publish it. See, I couldn't do that. Like, if I was an ethical scientist, I would want the data to speak for itself, especially if you're doing the data and you're doing it all on the up and up, nothing was manipulated, and you just let the science speak for itself. Why would you not want to put that out there? Now, we know why Coke would not want it out there if it says something detrimental about sugar, but the researcher, they're the ones that you would think would have the motivation. Hey, let's get the science out there and let it speak for itself. Researchers say this gives the beverage company, again talking about Coca-Cola, the ability to squash any unfavorable research findings, including studies that connect the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages to obesity. Well, here's the thing. You will recall a couple of years ago, there was a big story that came out that some researcher from the 1960s had died. And when they were going through his stuff, they were down in his basement. There were papers in the basement. I don't remember all the details, but there were papers in the basement that there were studies done on sugar in the 60s that basically said it's horrible for your health. We need to avoid it. It's going to lead to greater increases in obesity and heart disease and diabetes. And Harvard researchers were the ones that did that research. Well, guess what? They were paid $50,000 to kill the study because the Sugar Association did not like the findings. And part of that $50,000 was to not only kill that science, but then to vilify saturated fat. People forget all this history. This is out there for the Googling if you want to go look it up. It's all right there. You can see they've been doing these manipulation tactics with the science for decades. Decades. And now Coca-Cola, right in front of our faces, is doing the exact same thing. So the authors of this study, again published in the Journal of Public Health Policy, are affiliated with the University of Cambridge, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, the University of Boccini, and the U.S. Right to Know, which is a nonprofit organization that advocates for greater transparency in the food system. They base their report on Coca-Cola research contracts obtained through numerous Freedom of Information Act requests, which uncovered over 87,000 pages of documents. In the stack, the study's authors found that 5 Coca-Cola research agreements were in effect with 4 different universities. So LSU, Louisiana State University, right here in my home state, University of South Carolina, University of Toronto, and the University of Washington. Most of the research Coca-Cola supports is related to nutrition and physical activity. And while their analysis focused on Coca-Cola, the researchers say that these type of contracts aren't unique in the world of corporate sponsored science. So again, everybody's doing it. You take the money from industry, and this includes pharmaceutical industry and food industry. You take the money from them and you sign a contract that says, hey, if we don't like the results, we have the right to overrule this getting published. So this is happening on the regular. But Coca-Cola is a well-known name, and as you're going to find out here in a minute when I read from something from their website about transparency, you're going to see how laughable this is. As the U.S. government spends less on research, corporate sponsors are kicking in, but not always for the common good. Monsanto and PepsiCo have sponsored health studies related to their products specifically, but by revealing just how one company, Coca-Cola, can influence and even kill studies without reason, the study's authors make the case for much greater transparency in corporate-sponsored scientific research. So, When you look at the fine print of these contracts that Coca-Cola makes these research institutions, these academic institutions sign, they found that Coke is entitled to look at all studies before they get published. They can provide comments about what the research found, and they have the right to completely terminate any research project at any time and without any reason. Like, are we okay with that? Are we okay with Coca-Cola, who arguably has been at the heart of the obesity epidemic in America? I think back to my own high carb eating days, and at my apex of drinking Coke, and I used to love Coca-Cola, at my apex, I was drinking 16 cans of Coke a day. So Coca-Cola does not want you to know that that helped to contribute to my obesity. They don't want you to know that it helped to contribute to my insulin resistance. And for a lot of people, it contributes to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's later in life, cancer. They don't want you to know that's what it does. And so any research that shows, oh yeah, this really messes up with your metabolism, they don't want that to get out there. And they have the right to silence it if that's what the study finds. Contractual provisions also ensure that Coca-Cola maintains all intellectual property rights connected to the research. In other words, if the researcher tries to go rogue and publishes the data anyway, Coca-Cola will pull out, oh no, that's our intellectual property, and if you publish it, you steal it, and you go to prison. You see how they chain these researchers to do exactly what they want to do? Which again, Coca-Cola, driving nutritional health research. You can see why this is a cancer to all of science. Although the researchers didn't uncover concrete examples of Coca-Cola concealing research findings that could be harmful, the researchers say it's telling that these restrictive contractual clauses exist in the first place. Coca-Cola is writing into its research agreements the ability to influence and even kill research. This is so significant, according to the study author Gary Ruskin. He's the co-director of U.S. Right to Know. One of the tenets of the scientific method is that the outcomes of experiments are not already predetermined. And you know, if Coca-Cola is paying for the research, if it's a bad outcome, they ain't gonna let it see the light of day. And if we're okay with that, then you might as well give up all of nutritional health science. It's meaningless at that point, if you're gonna allow the fox to rule the hen house, basically. In some cases, Coca-Cola had the power to predetermine what the outcome would be, in that it could kill the studies if it turned out badly for Coca-Cola and its profit margin. That's not science, it's purely public relations, is what Gary Ruskin said. I'll go one further, it's propaganda. If the researchers know that Coke is gonna kill any study that makes them look bad, is the researcher gonna allow that to go to Coke? No. What they will do is they will manipulate the data and say, okay, Coke, here's what you want to hear. Please keep giving us money. Where do you stop that? Do you put that on academic institutions for selling their soul? Do you put it on Coke? Do you put it on regulators who should be overseeing this kind of thing so that taintedness in the research doesn't come? Who is responsible? Or is it the researchers themselves who say, well, wait a minute, I got into science to let the science speak, not to let Coca-Cola speak for me, right? The study's authors uncovered email exchanges showing scientists and university officials discussing Coca-Cola contract agreements. In one such email, a scientist expressed uncertainty over a study termination and expressed concerns over the intellectual property ownership. Another exchange, a scientist at another university said that their contract was very restrictive for an unrestricted grant. So in other words, if you don't play by the rules with Coca-Cola, they can terminate you faster than you can say at you. And they won't feel bad about it. That's not science, you guys. It's not the first time the public is hearing about Coca-Cola's questionable involvement in scientific research. A few years ago, Coca-Cola disbanded its Global Energy Balance Network. It was a group led by scientists and created by Coke. They create all these fake medical and scientific boards literally all the time. Coca-Cola is the sole funder. They bring in all these researchers, they bring in all these scientists, and they say, hey, if you play ball with us, we'll make sure you keep getting funding for your research. If you don't, you won't. And for these money-hungry scientists who need money to do their research, most of them seemingly are willing to sell their soul to the devil, and in this case, Coca-Cola is the devil, just to get that money. I'm going to read some of that history here in a second. I pulled out some older articles that this is not new. The group was criticized by the public health community for promoting the idea that the lack of exercise and not a poor diet was primarily responsible for obesity. The paper's authors say the findings call into question the company's motivations for funding health research. Well, why else would Coca-Cola spend millions of dollars on nutritional health and health in general research? What would be their motivation but for increasing profits? Like, what would be the cost analysis of spending that money? In their minds, they know if they can get a positive study to come out that does not make Coca-Cola look bad, that's going to make people go buy more Coke products. Let's not fool ourselves into what that is. They're spending the money almost like a marketing hedge that they know if some damning evidence comes out against high fructose corn syrup, which is the primary sugar used in Coke's beverages, the sugary beverages, if something bad comes out about that, then they're toast. People are going to stop buying it. And what happens usually is when you get one research, then that spawns other researchers. Oh, we want to replicate that. And then you have more research, and it's a downward spiral. But if you're Coca-Cola and you give millions of dollars to these researchers with a contract that says, if I don't like the results, we can kill it, then you never have those kinds of studies see the light of day. And people think, oh, there's no evidence against high fructose corn syrup. There's no evidence against sugar. So therefore, keep buying Coke. And then they try to distract you by talking about it's a lack of exercise. You just need to move more. And they also like to focus a lot on calories. Kevin Hall is one of the biggest researchers that always points to calories, 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 calories. I don't know if Kevin gets any money from Coca-Cola, but I would not be surprised. And if it's not him, it's somebody like him. So they're calling on Coca-Cola in this study, as well as other corporate backers of science, to publish lists of all the terminated studies. How cool would that be? All these studies that they have squashed and killed, make them publish the data. Now that's truth in science, and I would love to see that. They also said that the journal should require scientists to share any research agreements with corporate funders and make them all accessible. Right now, a lot of these agreements are done in secret, and they don't allow you to see those things. So that's a problem as well. Coca-Cola responded in a statement, "We agree that research transparency and integrity are important." That's literally all they said. They had nothing to say about the study. All right, so I wanted to read to you from Coca-Cola's website. I've been doing some research this morning of some of these older articles, but while I was looking that up, I found on Coca-Cola's website, this is on coca-colacompany.com, a statement from the Coca-Cola Company on our approach to research and funding. Get ready to laugh your head off when you hear this. "We agree research transparency and integrity are important. That's why ever since 2016, wait a minute, 2016? How long have you been a company? Oh, over 100 years? And only since 4 years ago? Less than 4 years ago? The Coca-Cola Company has not independently funded research on issues related to health and well-being in keeping with research guiding principles that have been posted publicly on our website since that time." That's because they got a big old black guy in the media for doing it. But do any of us today, any of you watching Jimmy Rants today, do you honestly believe they're not still spending money with researchers? Yeah, me neither. I think they are. I think they do it on the down low. We adopted these guidelines to address the questions that can arise when we are the sole funder of research. Additionally, a list of health and well-being research funded by the Coca-Cola Company dating all the way back to 2010 has been disclosed on our transparency website for the past 4 years. Research funded by the Coca-Cola Company and disclosed on our site is expected to be conducted in accordance with our publicly stated approach to funding scientific research, including the fact that we do not have the right to prevent the publication of research results. Bull! You know they had those agreements. And stop lying to us. Just admit you did it and move on. They're gonna go down with this one. Nor do we provide funding conditioned on the outcome. Again, I call balderdash. Our full scientific research approach disclosed here is as following. For all health and well-being research funding disclosed, the researchers are expected to conduct research that is factual, transparent, and designed objectively, are expected to generate an appropriately phrased hypothesis, and to conduct research that will answer the relevant questions rather than favor a particular outcome, have full control of the study design, execution, and collection, analysis, and interpretation. They are encouraged to publish all data and are expected to disclose their funding sources in all publications and public presentations of the data. In no event does the Coca-Cola Company have the right to prevent the publication of research results, nor does the Coca-Cola Company provide funding conditioned on the outcome of the research. Do any of you believe that? Again, I'll go back to the key question in all of this. What would be Coca-Cola's motivation for funding research looking at sugar, for example? What would be their motivation? They want to try to see an outcome that's going to help them sell more sugary swill. Otherwise, what's the point? Are they just good natured? Oh, we're all about science. Oh, we just want to promote the sciences and make sure that science continues on. And we've been so blessed as a company selling the very thing that makes people obese and unhealthy. And so to give back to all those people that are dying of cancer and have diabetes and have heart disease and have obesity, we're going to give back now and contribute to the eternal legacy of science. Like, are we really buying that? I don't think so. And yet that's what they want you to believe. In addition, we've continued our journey to be a more helpful and effective partner in efforts to address the serious problem of obesity around the world. No, you have not gotten rid of your sugary beverages yet. When you do that, you are going to be helpful and effective as a partner in addressing obesity. We've listened and learned from public health community, our customers, associates, and our consumers to understand the most appropriate role that we can play to fight obesity in a way that's credible, transparent, and beneficial for everyone. Today, our focus is on reducing sugar in our drinks. Yes, they have lots of diet soda drink options. They have flavored water drink options, but that's not the point. They still push Coca-Cola and all the other sugary beverages in their line. And they're loaded, you guys, like 45 grams of high fructose corn syrup in just one 12-ounce can of Coke. 45 grams. You divide that by 4, and that's almost, or it's over, 11 teaspoons of sugar in just one can of Coke. You know how much sugar is in your entire body at any given time? 1 teaspoon. So if we have 1 teaspoon of sugar in our body at any given time, and you drink just one, remember I used to drink 16 a day, 1 can of Coca-Cola, you're getting 11 times that. And they want to pretend like that's okay. They want to pretend like that doesn't contribute to the obesity epidemic. They are hypocrites. They are fools. And they actually think you're a fool. They think you're buying into what they're selling. And I don't think many people are. We're focusing on reducing sugar in our drinks and producing no and low sugar options as we work to support the World Health Organization, oh, there they are, And their recommendation that people limit added sugars to 10% of their daily caloric intake. How about added sugars being 0? Because if added sugars are 0, okay, we'll allow you to have some of the natural sugars, but why do you need to have any added sugar at all? All right, so I've got a few more things here to kind of give context to this. Coca-Cola's work with scientists was a low point in the history of public health. This is from Daily Mail. And again, it talks about some of the funding. We are certainly going to have to disclose this Coca-Cola funding thing at some point. Our preference would be to have other funders on board first. Right now we have 2 funders, Coke and an anonymous donor. Does including the universities as funders, supporters pass the red face test? So this was a researcher talking in an email chain about how they're frustrated that they have to rely on these funds from Coke. They also asked if universities had policies about disclosing the amount of a gift so they wouldn't have to reveal the amount that Coke actually gave them. And so they're looking at coalition building, which establishes Coke's network of researchers and establishing relationships with various policymakers. This included researchers meeting members of the West Virginia legislature and Coca-Cola supporting a small group of scientists as part of this thing called the email family. And it's just a living example, the latest example of the appalling commercialization of the science. One person said public health academics in an email family with Coke is like having criminologists in an email family with Al Capone. Yep, that's what it is. There was actually a research paper conducted by the NIH, Coca-Cola, a model of transparency in research partnerships, a network analysis of Coca-Cola's research funding from 2008 to 2016. I'm just going to skip right to the conclusion. After they evaluated 389 articles published in 169 different journals, authored by 907 researchers, all of those cited Coca-Cola being one of their funders. Coca-Cola only acknowledged 42 of them, less than 5%. So the Coca-Cola company appears to have failed to declare a comprehensive list of its research activities. And we know why they did that. When they quashed research, they immediately crossed them off the list. Oh, nope, we didn't give them any money. No research was ever published. Nope, can't prove it. Further, several funded authors appear to have failed to declare that they got money from Coke. Most of Coke's research support is directed towards physical activity. It totally disregards diet in obesity. Despite initiatives for greater transparency of research funding, the full scale of Coca-Cola's involvement is still not known. This is an NIH study that was looking into this, and they're like, we don't see where they've been very transparent at all. Are we okay with this? Like, something needs to happen. They need to have sanctions, Coke does. Sanctions need to be lodged against them that prevents them from having this, doing this more. Because what they've done is they've set a precedent. And the precedent is, as long as you give a boatload of money and you keep all the strings attached that you can control everything, that it's okay for you to give lots of money for biased research. That's what this is teaching us. And that's a bad precedent. Because Coke's not the only one with deep pockets. There are a lot of other companies, food companies especially, and there are a lot of food companies doing this. That are doing exactly the same thing. So here's another article about how Coke disguised its influence on science about sugar and health. In 2015, the Coca-Cola company gave $1 million to the University of Colorado Foundation, a revenue stream that feeds into the university itself, to fund research called the Global Energy Balance Network. The stated goal of the Institute was to provide a forum for scientists around the globe to come together, generate knowledge and evidence-based pathways needed to end obesity. But the real goal was to persuade people that they were focusing way too much on calories and portions and not enough on exercise. Coke realized, they read the tea leaves. Oh crap. 2016, remember, that was about the time keto started kind of coming on the scene. And they thought, you know what? Dr. Lustig had just done his Sugar, the Bitter Truth video that went viral on YouTube. They were reading the tea leaves and like, we have to get off of diet because that's a losing argument. We will not win that one. So let's pour all this money into telling Americans, oh yeah, the reason you're fat is you don't exercise enough. And so they started funding all these research papers, looking at how exercise, the lack thereof, is why you're fat. That's what they did to try to take the focus off of diet. And the list of contributors to this effort, including the University of Colorado faculty and academic scientists, was riddled with all kinds of conflicts of interest. Coca-Cola was allowed to choose the executives that were on the board for the Global Energy Balance Network. They got to draft the mission statement, they got to design the website, and even compared their scientific project to a political campaign. The company hired academics who had just received funding from Coke and other food companies in the past. James O'Hill, a really big name in the nutritional health research world, co-founded this and served as its president. According to the Integrity and Science database maintained by the Center for Science and Public Interest, Dr. Hill gets money not just from Coke, but from PepsiCo, McDonald's, and the Sugar Association. He's also previously received consulting fees for other projects from Coke and other food companies. Before the organization was even founded, Coke had provided $4 million in research funds to two other of its founding members, Dr. Stephen Blair, an exercise scientist at the University of South Carolina, and Gregory A. Hand, the dean of the West Virginia University School of Public Health between 2008 and 2015. The new Coca-Cola funded research institute used studies funded by the company to argue that there's strong evidence that weight gain can be prevented not by doing anything with your diet, not by cutting calories or anything, but maintaining an active lifestyle and eating more calories. That's what they did. They're like, don't look at the big elephant over here. Look over there. Look over there. It's exercise. You're not exercising enough. Meanwhile, this is staring them in the face, and they didn't want people to see it. Coca-Cola sought to use the Institute to shift the dialogue on obesity away from calories towards exercise by funding industry-friendly science. But when the Institute's motives and funding were exposed, Coca-Cola announced it was halting all operations because they had resource limitations. Yeah, you got found out. That's what happened. You didn't run out of resources. So why does this matter? Research funding by the private sector does not necessarily compromise the science, and that's an important distinction. Just because a study is supported by some company does not mean that the science is automatically invalid. They tried to pull that when Dr. Atkins started funding a lot of the research of the low-carb ketogenic diet. I remember when Eric Westman told me the story about going to Dr. Westman and saying, hey, look, or going to Dr. Atkins and saying, hey, look, I want to do a study on the low-carb diet. And Dr. Atkins like, I don't need a study, it works. And Dr. Westman was trying to explain to him, well, you kind of need the science to prove it works, and so it has veracity, so other people will look into it. And, okay, how much you need? And so he asked for the money. And Dr. Westman had the very first major ketogenic research got published in the late 90s. And the first thing that critics said was, well, of course it's going to be positive for low-carb diets. Look who paid for it. And so at the end of the day, they had to keep saying, hey, look, we did the highest level of integrity, and I can tell you Dr. Eric Westman is one of the highest ethical people you will ever meet. And so he did it on the up and up, but the question was there simply because of the funding. So the funding alone does not mean the science is invalid. It's what happens after that. Coca-Cola's influence managed to override sensible transparency and safeguards meant to ensure the integrity and independence of research. Independent assessment is vital to the practice of science, which is why scientists go to such lengths to conduct peer review, which means other scientists look at all the methodology and everything and they go, yeah, that was a good research paper. So peer review is so critical when you're looking at science. and design double-blind studies. In other words, both sides of the study don't know which one they're a part of. So are they a part of the control group or are they part of the intervention group? They don't know. That's called, and the researcher also doesn't know. That's what double-blind means. So when both the participant and the researcher have no idea who's getting the intervention, then it makes for more ethical science. They know that even their own knowledge of possible outcomes in a research study can unwittingly skew the results. Independent science is too important to achieving good policy outcomes, and in this case, talking about childhood obesity and diabetes, to allow it to be tainted by any appearance of a conflict of interest. That's the thing. Is there an appearance of conflict of interest? If there is, there's always going to be doubts on the results of that data. Public confidence in this kind of work is also vital to its continuance at academic and research institutions that are often publicly funded. And now that Coke has been outed for what they did, the public's confidence in it's going to be less and less and less, so that the next research paper, which could be completely pure and all on the up and up and well designed and everything perfect, people will first be skeptical because of what Coke did. They will. Transparency is the vital first step towards ensuring that purportedly independent research and scientific bodies are truly as advertised, independent and not co-opted by vested interest. The disclosure that Coca-Cola eventually made about its connection to the global energy balance network illuminates this fact. The case illustrates why full disclosure is so important and why we need to work harder to insist that our scientists, medical professionals, and politicians acknowledge exactly who is backing them and with what kind of terms, so we can more fully assess the independence and integrity of the work. And then, yeah, this last one was from last year about Coca-Cola having the right to kill any study that it doesn't like. Let's see if there's anything else in here before we come to you guys. Yeah, this is just really, really bad, you guys, that this is allowed to happen. And, you know, the thing is, we act like we didn't know about this, but we've known. We've known. It's good that it's coming to light more and more, but we need to be shining a light on this, and we need to be holding scientists, researchers, academic institutions to a higher standard. Hey, if you're going to take money, you need to make sure you don't get in a contract that basically ties your hands, that if you don't do a certain kind of research, you're not going to get money anymore. How we rectify the funding issue for these researchers, I don't know, but letting the fox rule the hen house is not the answer. So here's one thing. These tactics, you guys, is exactly what the tobacco industry did. The strategies used by companies to skew and obfuscate nutrition research to their benefit are well established. It's a really good analogy to look at the tobacco industry for why and how they're able to control the research agenda. That control is one way they try and prevent laws like a soda tax from affecting their business. That ultimately is their purpose. They are worried that we're going to have policies put in place that would raise the price of their product, sugary drinks, and it kills their industry. That's what they're worried about. And so if they can fund researchers that show, no, it's not unhealthy for you, please keep buying our sugary swill, meanwhile people keep getting amputations from diabetes, on and on and on. And back on the tobacco thing just for a second, they used to run commercials, and you can go look them up on YouTube, where they promoted cigarettes as healthy. Like, that's so preposterous in today's society. But go look them up. Put in cigarettes healthy as a search term over on YouTube, and you will find the vintage commercials. And you could even do a Google search of that, and you'll see these Google magazine ads like, oh yeah, I'm smoking Virginia Slims for my health. You know, and it's got these women, all these sexy women and everything, and that was real. Like, you look at it today and it looks like, oh my gosh, there's no way they'd ever do that. They did. They did. And of course, they try to do the same thing with vilification of saturated fat, thinking it's somehow bad. And then we'll find out, 10, 20 years from now, Yeah, that really wasn't, everything. And people will look back on this era of cutting fat and go, what were you people thinking? That's the analogy. It's coming someday. But Coke, yes, they are driving, have been anyway, historically, a lot of the nutritional health research. And to me, it's the fox ruling the hen house, and it truly is a cancer to science. All right, let's see what you guys have to say now. Pop over here to Instagram first, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Go check it out, you guys. Christy says, I'm looking forward to your video with Janae Siwish. Yeah, if you missed it earlier, I have two bonus episodes, two Jimmy Rants bonus episodes over on YouTube. Just go look it up on youtube.com/livinglowcarbman. I have an interview with Janae Siwish, who is a pregnant woman who's pretty much eaten keto carnivore her entire pregnancy. She's just weeks away from giving birth. She is the wife, by the way, of Dr. Robert Siwish, the carb addiction doc. A lot of people like his work. And then we also have a second Jimmy Rants bonus episode with Sean Croxton, a longtime fellow podcaster and health troubadour. We had a great conversation, so go watch both of those over on YouTube. Deanna says the U.S. is owned by Big Food and Big Pharma. They are. And I don't think enough people realize that behind the scenes, those industries have a lot of pull and can make things happen that they want to see happen. It's unfortunate that money speaks, but money speaks. I'm sure McDonald's puts a lot of money into the same kind of research. We could go down the line of all the major food companies, and that doesn't even count the pharmaceutical companies, but just the food companies alone, putting out all of this stuff that's, okay, go look at this thing over here. It's got to be exercise, got to be the lack of exercise. It can't possibly be the sugary swill that we're trying to sell to you. Kat says the moral of this story, you can't think for yourself. Coca-Cola gladly will do it for you. Some people just need those sugar coating research to justify their sugar addiction, just like sugar is all good. Yeah, they think so. They think so. Hey, Jesse. She said, I took the summer off. Good to see you again. Westman is a gem. He is. I love Dr. Westman. I think the work he's done, he is a legend in the ketogenic research world, and definitely deserves to be lauded more and more than he is. Kat says the lack of exercise and movement is a huge part of the puzzle. Normalize home gyms. I can see that trend of glorifying kitchens and making them bigger and bigger. Save space for your gym instead. Yeah? Yeah, I don't think exercise in and of itself is a bad thing, but to make it the focus of obesity prevention is kind of idiotic, if you ask me, because you can't out-exercise a bad diet, and we've all heard that in the keto space. So get your diet right, but then add the appropriate amounts of movement. And if we're going to go that way, Kat, I would say get enough sleep, de-stress, get lots of sun, have fun, and engage in play from time to time. Those are all like qualities that we can all agree on could be health boosting. So it's good stuff. Celtic Keto, the same thing is happening in heart medication. Yeah, I'm sure it's happening across all fronts where public or interest of private companies are in jeopardy. And so therefore they're going to pull out all the stops to try to save their industry. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here now to my Facebook page. What's up, Facebook? See what you guys have to say on this one. Tracy says, this irritates me so much. It's so frustrating. I'm so tired of being lied to. So much information was kept from us, but we were easily called lazy or that we cheated on our eating, which none of it was true. Tracy, that is at the heart here of why I talk about these stories. Because so many of us that have been in the weight loss and health game and have cared about weight loss, cared about health at some point in our lives, we trusted people. We trusted information that was being provided. And see, here's what happens when a study gets published. Then it's regurgitated by other scientists. Then it gets regurgitated to these doctors at conferences. Then those doctors come back to their office. Oh, I just heard about this study that says obesity has nothing to do with the food you eat. It's all about the exercise. So I want you to engage in 30 minutes of exercise. And you see how it trickles down. And then what happens is you go hear your doctor say that, then you go talk to your cousin Sally or your mom or your friend or your coworker. Oh, wow, did you hear exercise? It's not about your diet at all. It's only about exercise. And then it cascades into the culture. And that's what lie after lie after lie does, is it convinces you that you're the problem. It convinces you that all the things you're doing, you're just not doing it hard enough. And we've all heard that for our entire lives. We've been told, well, if you're not losing weight, you're not cutting calories enough. You're not exercising hard enough. It's your problem. It's your fault. And they want to place the onus. Why was that phrase so hard for me to say? Place the onus on you, the patient. And I think a lot of us are tired of that. Kira says they don't get punished, only we the people get punished. That's true. And it's part of why this is such a challenging subject to talk about, because these companies, they're not held responsible. I think sanctions should be brought against Coca-Cola and for what they did. They need to be made an example of. Now, they've got extremely deep pockets, so they got to hit them hard. They need to do what all the lawsuits against Monsanto over Roundup. Have you heard about the Roundup class action lawsuits? Because Roundup has been found to have glyphosate in it, and it's causing a lot of people to get cancer, that they're now having to pay out multi-millions of dollars in lawsuits, and they're not even close to being done. They've had to pay out, I think, about $500 million, maybe even more than that by now, in damages because of the people that got sick from using Roundup. And they've got a whole bunch more in the works. How many people could do a class action lawsuit against Coca-Cola for the same thing? Oh, you didn't disclose the high fructose corn syrup, which a lot of studies you funded found where it was unhealthy, but you squashed it, and that harmed my health. Don't you know they're shaking in their boots over that one? And it's not out of the realm of possibility that could happen, you guys. So stay tuned. Renee said, so many friends think exercise is the only answer. Yeah, they believe that because researchers with bogus money from Coca-Cola say that. Then it goes down to the practitioners when they go to conferences and hear all the latest research. Then they come back and they tell it to their patient. Well, the latest research is not about what you eat. It's about your exercise, your calories in, calories out, and da-da-da. And that's how they keep it going. It's very sordid tale. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here to YouTube. Coke needs to get their sticky fingers out of our nutrition, says Shirley. Amen to that. Johanna says, eat less, move more, and be sure to drink your Coca-Cola. Yes, Johanna, that's what they want you to believe. Linda says, freezing me out, I'll watch later. Well, I'm sorry about that. But let me go back to Johanna. Eat less, move more, and drink Coke. When I was on a low-fat diet in 1999, I drank Coke. And the reason I drank Coke was it was naturally fat-free. There was no fat in Coca-Cola. And so in my mind, if the enemy in my diet at that time was fat, then why wouldn't I drink Coke? Now, I wasn't guzzling them. I think I had 2 a day, but still, I had 2 Cokes a day. And I never put the connection between what that was and what I was putting in my mouth. I was just looking at fat grams only. This is why the focus now being on real food and trying to make that the primary thing you look at in your diet, make it real food based. And if it's real food based, then it'll naturally be low in carbohydrate. It won't have added sugars. Yes, if you eat sugary fruits and things like that, or even heavy starchy vegetables and starches, you're going to get sugar in the body that way. But it's not this man-made fake sugar HFCS, high fructose corn syrup, that they put in Coca-Cola. And of course, it's highly palatable, so you don't just have a little bit when you have a little, you have a lot of it. And once you get a lot of it in you is when the damage happens. And so maybe I should do a whole Jimmy Rants talking about all the cascade of negative consequences that happens when you consume high fructose corn syrup in large amounts. That might be a fun Jimmy Rants to do, not the least of which your liver goes on overdrive trying to deal with it. So, but Coke, you guys, they're driving, and they have historically been driving a lot of the health research in the nutrition space. And you need to know about that. It's a huge cancer to science, and we need to eradicate it quickly. Kat says it's all connected, but appropriate exercise can almost guarantee stress relief and better sleep. I feel much worse if I don't exercise immodestly, especially sleep. Yeah. It's all a part of the health protocol that I think we're all in favor of, Kat. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me right here on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to be here right on time. I try to be on time every single day when I do the show. So thank you guys for being here. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay here on IGTV on Instagram. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You'll find the show. You can also go to youtube.com/livinglowcarbman. And don't forget, those 2 bonus episodes, Jimmy Rants bonus episodes, are up now. It's my 2 interviews from this week's podcast. Janae Siwas today about pregnancy and low carb keto. And then tomorrow on Real Talk, my bud Sean Croxton and I, we got into all kinds of topics. So you'll just have to go watch it. I think that was my favorite interview I've done in a very, very long time. So go check that one out, you guys. And then finally, JimmyRants.com is the official website for this year's show. Go check out all the past episodes there. And while you're there, be sure to support the Patreon. Click on the Patreon link. A donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. We're still putting up early access to the videos of my podcasts. We're going to put them up, I believe we're going to put them up on Thursday. So what's that, tomorrow? We'll put the videos up for next week. So if you are a Patreon, you get that early access. When I get a few more Patreons, I will start doing exclusive Jimmy Rants episodes, probably once a week to start off. That will be an exclusive one just for my Jimmy Rants Patreon followers and supporters to kind of show my appreciation to you guys for supporting my work. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again real soon with more Jimmy Rants. We'll see ya. All right. Save that bad boy. All right, guys. I need to get off of here because I have an interview coming up in a half an hour. I got another one at 4 o'clock, so the work never stops, but I love every minute of it. That's why I keep coming back here every day. All right, guys, let me get off of here for now. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye. Bye, YouTube.